Hi everyone, I'm Stephen Berlin. This is the third out of 4 talks that I'm going to give on transcendence and dreams. I'm sorry that I have to relate my transcendent dreams in their entirety. Transcendence cannot be taught in like step A, step B, and step C. Normally for degrees of transcendence you either pop a hallucinogenic drug, or you go through years of spiritual discipline, or you get lucky. And so my plan is another alternative, and that is by the fact that I've had over my lifetime of dreaming a series of transcendent dreams, and it isn't that many, that by your unconscious mind, and I have great respect for your unconscious mind, it will recognize by listening to these certain patterns and things that even I don't recognize. Our minds are brilliant for doing that, and by listening to this variety of transcendent dreams, it'll, after your mind incorporates it and stews, probably a more appropriate word would be incubates, then somewhere down the line, 6 days, 6 months, or 6 years, your dreaming mind will perhaps deliver you, hopefully, your own transcendent state of consciousness, which from your perspective will be far better than any of mine. So custom-made to your spiritual path. Okay, I'm going to get on to the dream of today, which is a historical dream. I'm standing in a city square, and I'm surrounded by this pretty impressive architecture, and in front of the square there's like a stage, and on both sides of the stage are 2 big metal bowls, I would say huge metal bowls, and they got fire coming out of both of them. And so night's beginning to fall very rapidly at this point, and as I'm standing in this square, people start to really congregate, and pretty soon they're just like thronging in and they're like pressing upon me, and I'm standing there, like standing room only. And then it was dark, and you have these 2 flaming bowls and this mob of people, really a lot of generated energy there. And I thought, man, I better stick around. Something's going to happen, So anyway, out of the darkness, from between those 2 bowls, steps Hitler, and he starts addressing the crowd. Now this crowd of people now suddenly are spellbound, and I'm witnessing this, and and it was like I was going to say Woodstock. Now, how do you like that? Woodstock and Nazi Germany. Where's that connection? Well, where the connection is I was invited to Woodstock and I didn't go. Now, that was my big regret of that drug-induced decade. I didn't go to Woodstock. So anyway, but here I was in a historical event, and I was actually there. Now, these kinds of things like Woodstock and this Germany thing are things that you hear about happening, but often we're not there when they happen. Well, here I was there, and I was amazed by this, but I wasn't lucid. Then I all of a sudden just lifted off the ground vertically, and now my feet are dangling above the heads of this crowd, listening to the Fuhrer, and I thought, this is a dream? I'm dreaming this? I've been transported back through time? You got to be kidding me! And I'm just flabbergasted. And then right at that point, obviously this is like a major lucidity now, realizing this. And right at that point, some unseen force began pulling me. I was still in the standing orientation. Some unseen force began to pull me back. Now, in retrospect, that's a good thing, because I'm sure some of Hitler's henchmen would have, shot me out of the sky. But anyway, I'm being pulled back now through, in the standing orientation, and I tried to turn around and fly, but I couldn't do it for some reason. But I did look over my shoulder, and then I looked back, and I was amazed, as I always am, that as I looked over my shoulder, the background was coming toward me, and then I turned back around to the front, and the scenery is again receding, and I was just, as always, just stunned at the unconscious mind's ability to create such a complex visual experience in a dream so perfectly. But it did. Anyway, now it gets lighter, because I can now see the countryside below me. The Hitler spectacle is receded, and I assume this was presumably France. And as I went over the countryside of France, after a while, then I saw a shoreline, the waves and the coast, And I then continued to move back, and I was now, presumably, over the Atlantic Ocean. Now, then as I moved out over the ocean, I lost anything I could visually grasp onto. And this is where you would think I would wake up, but I didn't. Now, this part is where the dream became transcendent. The rest, was all sequential, and I could tell it. This I can't really tell. Next day, I was writing down all day long, and when, anytime I could think of something, I was jotting it down. This, all of a sudden, when I was out over the ocean and I lost all visual stimuli, all of a sudden, it rose up in me. It flooded down on top of me like a tsunami on the right and a tsunami on the left. And I was twisted and pulled and yanked and jerked and turned and pushed and shoved and warped and morphed. And I was like an amoeba in a boiling soup of imagery and emotion. And I saw war and love and battles and blood and all of the major archetypes, I would say, and family and isolation, nations and flags and religious and sacred symbols, and throughout it all, birth and disease, all manner of disease and death over and over, and violence and youthful infatuation, and then all of the common things that are common across cultures and time, implements and tools and timepieces and furniture and transportation and art and music and books, weather, transportation, you name it. And it was I could keep going on. You can see what I mean. And I woke up then, and my heart was just going boom, 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 and the blood was just thrilling through my veins, and out of breath. And I estimate this dream lasted at least an hour. People say dreams don't last that long, but in my opinion, this lasted more than an hour, maybe an hour and a half. And I was just weak and exhausted by this, and yet I felt that I had witnessed the magnificent epic of man, a divine and mystical drama, the myth of myths. And how it changed me is, very frankly put, I felt that I had lived it all, that I had died all of the deaths, that I had been the victim of every horror in the world, and also the perpetrator of every horror in the world, and also all of the love and all of the compassion and all of the family and all of the good and wonderful things in life as well. And all of the beautiful, I've been all the beautiful artists, and I've written all of the world's most wonderful music and poetry and all this, but all of the bad stuff too, everything. So, and by extension, and I'm not telling you to believe this, you too, you have too. And how it's changed me is, when I see a homeless person, for instance, I think, well, there's me. There's me in another body. And when I hear on TV about some guy or woman, whatever, committing some despicable crime, and they're being sentenced to death, I think, that's me in another body. Glad I'm not conscious in that one at the moment. And I just really strongly feel this. So we have been the victims and the perpetrators. And with the world the way it is right now, we need to really have compassion for the world, because we are in this mess together, and we are everything we hate, everything we speak up against. And if we could just understand that. Anyway, I'm sure I'm running out of time. So I want to end this. I also want to thank you, since I'm in this divine and mystical drama, this chaotic epic of man. I'm glad you're in it with me.